Welcome back to the Flogsville Fantasy Podcast. Once again, it is the round 19 wrap. The season has come to an end for some, but for others, it's only beginning, it would seem, boys. It is finals time. It's an exciting time of the year, best time of the year, 100%. Welcome. And before we introduce our two coaches joining me this evening, we've got Coach of the Guns and Roses, Ben. Hello, mate.
Hello, Legend. Good to have you back in the country. But pleasure as always to be here, and exciting 4 weeks coming up. So,
absolutely good to be back. And joining you, Ben, is coach of the Rabbitohs, also in the finals. Daniel, hello, mate.
Hello, Scott. Fantastic to be here. Off the back of a loss, very unusual for me, but it is finals week, so definitely couldn't miss this one.
No, very good. Absolutely. It's just a bit of excitement in the air, boys. And I thought this podcast would just go through the ladder as it stood at the end of the regular season. And on top, our minor premier, of course, comes with a cash prize. The Guns and Roses, Ben, your boys going 15-1. Just off the top of my head, I think that's the best record ever, potentially. That's probably correct. You'd know that, mate.
I think it's around the mark. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but obviously very, very pleased with the season. Could have easily been 14-2 though on the weekend. Sam did, but we'll look past that and definitely take the top spot. So,
very good. And then coming in second, boys, probably the biggest improver this season was Hugh Stones. My God, your Liberatore in second place. Well-deserved, fantastic season from Hugh. And in third, he predicted that he'd win the comp, Sam, and then the back half of last year showed a bit of form, and then pre-season was singing his praises, and he's continued on, and he's quite possibly one of the form sides, boys, finishing in third. So fantastic season by Sam. The Sisterhoods, first season. Can we just take a moment? It was a shaky start, let's be said, a couple of narrow losses, but the Sisterhoods really, since just before the bye and then after the bye, that form is just unbelievable. They don't even know what a loss feels like. That's how good they're going. The Crouching Lions in fifth, just missing out on the top four. Another great season by Brett, coming home strong. He's got a good side. And then your boys, Daniel, finishing in sixth. As we've talked about lots, and you've mentioned a lot, not sure how you've got there, but 10-6, mate, you're in the 8 and you're in with a chance. My boys slotting in there into seventh, and then the Burtons boys will get into Brad's side, but in eighth, they're definitely up there with one of the contending teams, in my opinion. But we'll delve more into that. Brad in the finals, he's been pretty consistent last few years. Phenomenal. Unfortunately, just missing out, boys, in that Richmond ninth spot. Unlucky for Fenno. He's pretty strong back half of the year with Rory Laird being his dominant player, really, and great pick when he picked him up. Shawnee Newell, Glenman Fan Club in 10th, improving season, boys. And then Smith's Cripps was probably the ones that dropped away. Last year's premier, unfortunately. Finishing in 11th, and then we'll quickly scan through the B Sharps in 12th. Team GC press release, some tickets. Good to see Zach, assistant coach too. That was some good squirts there. So let's hope that his I can't even speak, boys. This is a horrific start by me. I'm better off in New Zealand. The Keys 14th. Promised a little bit, Jake. So sort of better than last year. So I'd like to see him go again, and I think he will. Hoffleberry FC, boys, 15th. Well, disappointing, let's be honest. And just the deleting the app excuse, all that nonsense is not what we're about here. We're about playing the full season. Talk about credibility in the competition. The midfielders promising, had some big scalps against me once again. Finishing in 16th, and then King Kunta and Total Eclipse of Heart, just not very good this season. And we will move on, boys, because it is time for our pick of the week. And what was a close round, high scoring, a lot of teams around the 23s, 22s, but could you believe it? The Sisterhoods have come again after a poor score last week. Jack Steele, Crippers Skippers, has been down the last couple of weeks. We mentioned it on the podcast. Tom really challenging Coach Alex, and Coach Alex delivered with the Jack Steele captaincy there, boys. What caught your eye in the Sisterhood's lineup?
I think just before we touch on the Sisterhood, Scotty, it's got to be noted that we have another co-host who have joined since the introductions, and unfortunately, like his side this year, a little bit late to the party. Tom, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Just on end of season trip at the moment down in Catherine, so yeah, joining a little bit late, but yeah, really sort of enjoying the end of season festivities.
Very good, mate. Glad to have you on board. Let's talk about the Sisterhoods, boys, because the captaincy, Jack Steele, Crippers Skippers, there will be a subscription service. Well, there should be. Alex should be charging that because the captains were back. The two big boys, Rabs, against you guys, really doing the damage.
Lots of their players doing the damage, to be honest. But pretty imposing score overall, over 2,400. Steele coming home late with the big 154, I think it was, or thereabouts, as skipper. But yeah, just all those blokes have been a little bit inconsistent of late, like Parker coming out with a 114, English and Gawn both sort of performing to their more standard level. And Rowan Marshall, a pretty solid inclusion in that side at the moment, given the St Kilda ruck situation. So, a very well-rounded side, as we've touched on a number of times. And Nick Dacos, probably one of those ones that a lot of people moved on earlier in the season. And it's ended up playing into their hands, really, by holding on to him. He's probably one of the premium defenders at the moment. So, yeah, very strong side. Going to be hard to beat in the next couple of weeks.
Beautiful, boys. Yeah, you go, Ben.
Sorry, mate. But you mentioned off the top that you can't remember the last time they lost. I think they've since the bye, and you can see why, with only one midfielder this week going below 100. So, yes, as you say, Rabs, very ominous for those who play them upcoming, which, trust me, I've had a good look at. So, they're flying at the right time of the year and, promise to do a bit of damage.
Very good, boys. Let's move on. We won't even talk about Spud of the Week. We just usually skip over that. But let's move on. In what was, the Crouching Lions, an opportunity if the Sisterhoods did go down to finish in fourth. They didn't. They won. They beat my boys in the end, which was a great result for Brett. Just his guys, a little bit like Rabs, what you were saying, just those, the worst sort of players going well, your Keys, Tom Mitchell, Timmy English, my nemesis, Jack McRae, just scoring 100. And then Timmy Taranto finding some form as well for Brett. And then my side, just Sean Darcy, really. Ollie Wines, Ben, I'm sure we'll get into it, but watching him live on Saturday afternoon he was either on the bench, in the forward line, or just running around the ball. It was real Caleb Sarong about his performance. He was nowhere. And then Christian Petrarca, I'm hoping he bounces back this week, and we'll talk about that later on, but just not good enough. And that's what did it in the end. Just that, 50 odd points just from those guys. Everyone else was pretty good, to be honest. Brayshaw maybe a bit down, but my side, it is what it is. Brett's got a good side, so it's just, it's those worst players at the moment just seem to be separating the good and the bad teams, or the not so good. I don't know. All right, let's move on, boys. We had this matchup was very intriguing. Just the tactics of McRae you've done it again. I'm sure we'll dive into it, boys, but it was the Guns N' Roses getting the job done in what looked like all weekend. It was going to be Sam to deliver the second L for the Guns N' Roses. Let's talk about it, boys.
Well, I can talk about it because I obviously looked at this really, really closely, and had no idea that Sam was going to be taking a donut for the sake of getting Callum Mills in for Wines. Obviously, looking a week ahead potentially, but yeah, only won by 14 points in the end with the 0 on his side. So he's got some real strength in his team. And unfortunately for him, holding George Hewitt isn't going to pay off for him. Already been ruled out for this week. So, yeah, potentially throwing a win away and just trying to get some depth on the bench would have got him the job. But his ruck department and forward line looking really good. And a couple of big midfielders going nuts. So he's primed to do some damage in the next few weeks.
I think a pretty imposing score given a pretty poor captaincy choice from Sam. Well, what ended up being a poor captaincy choice from Sam with Lachie Neale and his 80 odd. So yeah, fielding a donut, going down by 14 points with a captaincy choice that could have been better with Laird sitting there on 138. Even though it's a loss, definitely a huge amount of upside. And yeah, I think clearly one of the main contenders based on the performances this season. So yeah, going to be another side tough to beat in finals.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on, boys. It was Smith's Cripps delivering yet another excellent score, boys. Destroying Total Eclipse of the Heart. Liam, just a bit unfortunate this year. He's just gone down in a couple of games, but would have definitely given the finals a shake if he made it.
Yeah, I know how he feels, Scott. No, he's been going well, Mulesy, and he was one that we sort of flagged around the buys that might make a move in the second half of the season. Those big scores are starting to come, so yeah, I'm sure he'll be a leading contender in the race for the Constellation Cup. But yeah, obviously no real opposition this week in Total Eclipse of the Heart. Very disappointing sort of back end of the season from them. After they had a slow start, seemed to have thrown the towel in. So, yeah, it remains to be seen how they'll go fronting up again for a team next year. Obviously, love to have them involved as a really controversial sort of team in the past, and has really added a lot to the competition over a number of years. So, yeah, be interesting to see what the future holds for that franchise.
Very good, Tom. All right, let's move on, boys. It was My God, Your Liberatore, huge side with a nice score and a probably closer than we anticipated matchup against the Keys. The Keys are producing some decent scores there with the 22-35. What did you see in this matchup, boys?
Well, I think one score that stands out for Hugh, which is certainly not he's certainly not alone with this, is the Darcy Cameron 34, which I'm sure a lot of coaches are studying that this week and trying to work out whether that's an abnormality or whether that's going to be the new norm moving forward. I think Brodie Grundy's going to be playing VFL again by the sounds of it this week. And so, yeah, there's going to be some concerns there. But again, multiple coaches definitely affected by that one. But yeah, still some really good scores. And Brad Crouch was just everywhere for St Kilda on Sunday afternoon. So that's definitely helped him out there because Jake's put in a pretty good score and it would have been a close game without that. But yeah, Hugh, just too good.
Yeah, just a little bit of background on this one. In the halftime of the last game, there was real, nepotism, I guess, about the opportunity to get up for the Liberatores with 146 points needed from 4 players, and they proceeded to score 120 in the third quarter between the 4 of them. So winning by whatever that was, 100 odd. Really good score considering there's 2 rookies on field for Hugh. So obviously look ahead to this week. But again, another one who held Hewitt. So we obviously have to deal with him this week and see where that lands. But tops off a really good minor round season for him.
Excellent, boys. Let's move on to your matchup. Fenno, you got the job done with a 23-43. Another great score, mate. Beating the B-Sharps comfortably there. Talk us through this one, Fenno.
Not a lot to sort of add here. Obviously, been going okay the last few weeks, and I've been copying some flack from the assistant coach. I've been harping on all season about not peaking too early and peaking at the right time. However, it seems I've sort of peaked 1 week too late in the season. So, obviously missed out on the 8 by that one win. starting to string together some nice scores, but yeah, not enough this season. So Dale's side was reasonable. Obviously, just a few too many rookies on the field there with Parnell. Martin's still getting a run, so a few of those. Even Cumberland on the Friday night was 50 at halftime, I think. Looked reasonably strong, but just didn't have quite the consistency in his side to put up a massive score this week.
Beautiful, boys. Let's move on, shall we? The Glen Manton Fan Club getting the job done over Team GC. Probably Team Goldchild a little bit disappointed after having pick of the week before to pump out a 21.56, boys, but credit to Sean with another win.
Yeah, Mason Redmond just stands out for Team GC. Real yo-yo sort of operator, pumping out huge scores in other weeks and then backing up with a 42. And that was coupled with Dan Houston's 46, which has really hurt Team GC because, Sean's running around with some guys who sort of underperformed like Wines and Petrarca, as I'm sure we'll come to. But, not a great result to finish for Team GC because they've showed some good improvement. But I think Sean finished about 10th, I think, in the end as a result of that. So a pretty solid season for the Glen Mantons, and he's got some solid points for. So clearly a strong side, just didn't quite get to the finals.
I think that's a little bit harsh, Rabs. Redmond and Houston both getting subbed out for Zach.
Yes, I'm aware of that, but just noting the inconsistency of Team GC, mate. This seems to be a common theme with players like Redmond and Houston. But it's noted.
Excellent, boys. Shall we move on to who we got? We got the Burpin So, like I mentioned when we went through the ladder, I think they're flying, and we'll get into their matchup coming up against the Crouching Lions. But just another great score in Hoffleberry White Flag FC. Just nowhere, boys. Let's talk about Brad, please.
We can certainly do that, Scotty. Holding Josh Kelly as well for Brad. So a really pivotal move for him this week, assuming obviously he comes off his concussion. But some rumours through the media outlets that unfortunately he's out with health and safety protocols this week, the Burpins. So we send our condolences to him, and hopefully he has a good week on the training track and can get the boys up for the weekend.
Expecting lots of Zwift for those on Strava. Follow along at home.
I think there'll be a few kudos thrown around this weekend, Tom. Hopefully for Brad, it will be on the field too.
Very good intel. That's unfortunate for Brad. That's the second time he's been in health and safety protocols, which I'm sure will be, many of us in the coming weeks and months ahead. King Kunta, boys, had a win over the midfielders. We'll skip over this one. We've talked about the Sisterhoods getting the job done against the Rabbitohs. Both sides, the Sisterhoods finishing 4th, Rabs finishing 6th. Just a couple of words on your side, Rabs, sharing some similar underperformers as my boys.
Yeah, which promises for an interesting matchup then, Scott, which I'm sure we'll come to soon. But yes, hopefully that's as bad as my side can play with Petrarca, Wines and Darcy. And as we mentioned in previous weeks, having to continue to roll with Todd Goldstein as the sort of backup ruck / extra forward, given the other injuries that came up. So, there'll be some changes this week. But, too many blokes underperforming last week. But the Sisterhoods were going to be too good anyway, I think, for that game. But, I was hoping it'd be a little bit closer than 300 points, put it that way. So, we'll see. But we'll get to the matches coming up. That's the main stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Let's get stuck in, boys, because it is finals time. And in our first final, the top 4, of course, get a double chance. And we have the Guns N' Roses up against the Sisterhoods, boys. Let's dive deep into this one. Who's going to get the win and why?
This is an enormous matchup. One team absolutely firing at the moment with, sort of multiple pick of the weeks to their names over the last few rounds. One on the slide, you might say, even though there have been some strong scores. However, yeah, all of a sudden over the last month has seemed beatable. So, yeah, I think this one could potentially come down to captaincy selections. Yeah, Cripper Skipper's obviously going to be under the watchful eye this week. But yeah, gee, I'd love to see the Rabs bet odds on these ones.
Yes, so did I, Tom. None of it prepared. So maybe a little bit of pre-planning might have gone astray there. But clearly going to be a very tight matchup. Two very strong sides without stating the obvious. I think, you've summed it up well there, Tom, that the sisterhoods have definitely been on the rise. Hard to be on the rise when you're undefeated, I suppose, in defence of the Guns and Roses. But I think it's really going to come down, for me, to some of those players and what you can do at the trade table there, Ben, with blokes like Wines and Darcy as pods. Not sure what your plans are, but they sort of stand out as potential issues at the moment. So, I don't know. I'm probably leaning just towards the sisterhoods, to be honest. But I think it's going to depend on captaincy and also what happens at the trade table, I think.
Absolutely. I think the only concern for the sisterhoods, I think, is Nick Dacos potentially against Port. We saw Mitch Duncan last week really struggle. Port seemed to enjoy keeping the ball a lot and not go very far on occasion, but other occasions they moved the ball quite well. But so Nick Dacos will be interesting how he goes. Tommy Mitchell has just found a way to get to that 90 to 100, so we'll see how he goes against the Saints, who are quite tough. Maybe a Windhager goes to him. Potentially, but I think Adam Treloar, this selection of that, and even if he plays, how well is he going to go if Caleb Daniel comes back in, that sort of thing. So I think it's going to be super tight, boys, because, what can Ben do at the trade table? And then Andy Brayshaw's due. I tell you what, get him on the ground, Mr. Longmuir, and Jack McRae, of course. Who knows what will happen there with him, what kind of mood he's in, what kind of angle his head is at. So it's going to be real tight, boys. One to look forward to, possibly match of the round, I reckon, if we can have one. All right, let's move on. Second versus third. It's the Liberatores with the rookie issues of late up against the flying McRae. You've done it again. What do we think is going to happen with this one, boys?
Managed to have a little bit of an inside knowledge of one of the sides this week, and they are looking quite strong on the training track, the Liberatores, looking quite dynamic with their team selection at this stage. So, a little bit of cash in the bank to play with after last week. I'm sure Sam will know. I think sort of he's going to sort of have to roll the dice with one of those rookies, I think, based on Hewitt being out. So, getting a little bit inventive, but on the flip side, obviously playing Sam last week, he looks really strong, assuming he deals with Hewitt really well. You'd probably have to favour him, I'd suggest.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah, I think, again, going to be close and really does depend on what Hugh can do at the trade table. But I think just probably looking like one too many rookies for Hugh in comparison to Sam's side. So I think because of that, you probably have to lean towards Sam.
Oh. I think Riley O'Brien in the ruck is not a nice sight. No offense to him and to Sam's side, but just yuck. So it'll be interesting. Jack Sinclair as a pod at the moment, whether Sam goes that way for Hewitt or whether he maybe brings in someone else versus the Hawks, who are probably likely to tag him. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I tend to agree. I think Sam, just with too much quality there at the moment. All right, Crouching Lions up against the Burtons boys. Two sides who can from 5th and 8th, a very dangerous side and definitely in the mix. What do you see happening here? I'm leaning towards the Burpens.
Yeah, so am I. I think just having a quick look at the sides, I think Rory Laird just stands out at the moment with the form that he's been in recently, particularly given the importance of captaincy. You would have thought he's going to have something put on him, whether that's the VC or the C. I can't really remember when the Crows are playing, to be honest, this weekend. But yeah, I think the Burpins are in pretty good form, so I'm going with them.
I have to agree. Brad's had 3 wins on the trot to make the 8, and I think that momentum will continue. Just noting he's got 130k in the bank, so potentially a double upgrade or sideways from Cameron and Sean Darcy in the ruck, which would have him on the top, I think. So Brad for me.
Yeah, obviously that ruck department, I think for Brad, Sean Darcy will be interesting against Melbourne. But yeah, on Brett's side, obviously guys like Keys or Mitchell, we know what they're capable of, but seem to be a little bit hot and cold this season. So just based on that inconsistency, I'll side with Brad as well.
Excellent, boys. All right, let's move on to our last matchup, another elimination final. It's the Rabbitohs up against my boys in a tale of some serious inconsistent performers that are fortunately not unique at the moment, but they might become unique. So an interesting matchup ahead, boys. Talk us through this one, Ben and Tom.
I think it's funny how it works out, these uniques that come up against each other, sort of equaling each other out. But just noticing, I didn't quite work this one out, but you both have 60k in the bank. Is that aware to both of you? No, Rabs, that's your research done for the week. So anyway, I probably have to favour Scotty. I think, not really sure why, but maybe a couple of those big midfield boys, probably Brayshaw standing out, hopefully as a return to form might get you off to a good start.
Yeah, I think I'll go with Scott as well. Just seems to be, the highest scoring team this season. A bit more consistent than the Rabbitohs, who, in fairness, have got the job done when they need to. But yeah, I think come finals, Scotty might be too strong.
It's going to be interesting game, Scott. Sorry, I was just waiting to see who was talking then.
60k. Yeah, we'll see what we can do, because there's a lot of players who deserve to be kicked out of the side at the moment. And Rabs, I'm sure you would concur with that feeling. So we'll see what we can do with only 2 trades, really.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly, Scott. I'm hesitant to say too much because I've obviously got my currently updated team in front of me, so I can't remember who was traded in and not. But I think it'll be relatively close. I think, as has been alluded to, probably Brayshaw, Steele, and Mills as pods loom large for your boys, and I don't blame people for putting you as the favourite, but you never know. That's
it. You never know. Really quickly, boys, because we don't obviously spend a lot of time on the consolidation finals, but phenomenal up against the B-Sharps. Fenno, you're pretty keen to finish the season off well.
Yeah, hopefully. Hoping that form continues and I can knock off a few scalps to, claim some sort of silverware this season.
Very good, boys. We'll move on to the next matchup. Team GC against the midfielders. Team GC, you would think, should get the job done there. The Keys up against Huckleberry FC. The Keys, boys, yes. Yeah, nods. Yeah, that's about the consolidation finals. That's what we feel like, really. The Glenman Fan Club up against Smith's Crooks. This should be an interesting one, but I think Liam and Tom are the standout sides, boys, that missed out this year. Pretty much, yep, perfect. All right, on that note, good luck to everyone, even if you're in the other side of the draw there. But an exciting weekend of finals. Hopefully a little bit more action during the weekend on the chat. That would be nice. I think we just lacked that a bit this year. A bit of reaction, bit of commenting. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but just a bit more engagement in the group chat, I think, would be appreciated, especially finals time. What do you think, boys?
I would concur. One of the bigger players in that space have been pretty quiet this year, so obviously not making the finals for a few, but it's an exciting time. So good luck to all, and hopefully no injuries and stuff like that. So.
Oh, exactly right. We'll see you on selection, boys. But anyway, good luck. We'll join you next week with, well, we'll know who's out and we'll know who's got a week off, and then we'll dissect all the action for you. So good luck and go well.